What's up, everyone? We are back with Naveen Jain. We're going to be talking about how illness is optional. All right, Naveen, how is illness optional?
Well, so Alan, first of all, when I say illness, I really mean chronic diseases, which are, non-communicable diseases, not the communicable disease. I'm not talking about infection. God forbid we get infection and there's nothing we can do about it. I'm talking about the chronic diseases. That's not something that happens to you overnight. It happens over time. You don't go out and say, honey, I was out with Alan last night. I think I might have caught diabetes today. You don't catch diabetes. You don't catch obesity. You don't catch autoimmune diseases. You don't really catch Parkinson. You don't catch Alzheimer. You don't catch depression. You don't catch anxiety. These are all the chronic diseases. Interesting thing is, the chronic diseases happen for one single reason: chronic low-grade inflammation. Nothing else. The chronic low-grade inflammation causes chronic diseases.
Because it builds up over time and causes the long-term effects.
Yeah. So when you have a chronic low-grade inflammation, it's like pulling on a chain. It always breaks at the weakest link. And different people have different weak links. So some people will break because they get heart disease, some people get diabetes, some people get obesity, some people get Alzheimer, some people get cancer. But the root cause is the low-grade chronic inflammation. And the chronic inflammation happens when your gut is imbalanced. And when you have imbalanced gut, it causes your gut lining to be permeable. That means the food that you're eating and the bacteria and viruses and the yeast and the fungus, they start to seep into the bloodline, and your immune system is constantly now under attack because it's seeing stuff that it never saw. It's not supposed to see food in the blood. It's not supposed to see these viruses and bacteria. All it does, every time it sees something, it starts to attack it. And it's constantly, the best way it can attack is to inflame. Remember, every time there is a infection, most thing it does is inflame. And that inflammation, if it's constantly there, it essentially becomes chronic disease. So our healthcare system, I want to spend just going on a soapbox for 30 seconds. Our modern healthcare system has fundamentally designed to keep everyone sick. Every stakeholder in our healthcare system only makes money when you are sick. They don't make money when you're healthy. So imagine
it's like the social media business plan as well as the attention economy. They get paid more the more ads you see. So the healthcare system can be incentivized to keep us healthy.
That's right. But today, imagine when you are not sick, you don't get to see the doctor. Doctor makes no money. Hospital makes no money. Pharmaceutical companies make no money. An insurance company you would think are beneficiary, they're not. By law, they have to give back 85% of their premium to the policy holders. So if you're healthy, they have to refund your premium. They don't like that, so they would rather keep you sick. Pharmaceutical companies love chronic diseases. Chronic diseases to them means a subscription business.
Subscription business.
Right? Alan, you caught diabetes. Oh, ka-ching! For the rest of your life, you have a drug. They don't want to find out what caused it. You have autoimmune diseases. Let's not find out why you got that. Let's just suppress the immune system. Because when we suppress it, you have to keep it for the rest of your life. You're going to keep taking my drug. But when you suppress the immune system, doc, don't you think I'm going to get more diseases? Oh yeah, but we got drugs for them too. But doc, if I take those drugs, don't you think I'm going to get more diseases? Oh yeah, but we got drugs for them too. And what happens is they give you drug for one disease that causes 3 diseases, then they give you 3 more drugs that causes 9 more diseases, and then they give you 9 more drugs. And by the time you get to my age, you're popping more pills than blueberries. That's really what the pharmaceutical companies like. They don't want to cure anything. Now, the only person who doesn't want to be sick is a person who is sick. And that's the reason I believe, for the first time, we believe if we can tell the person who is sick what is causing it and what they can do about it. And what if the only drug they need is the food? And if they could find out what food is good for them, and they can find out what food is bad for them. And everybody says, oh my God, what a brilliant guy. He's all this great science. This is not new. This is what we knew thousands of years ago. You go back to Ayurveda, we talked about that in Ayurveda. They used to talk about people are really individual. Some are kapha, some are pita, some are mixture, and there's some food that are good for one person that's not good for another person.
Depending on what the difference is
inside your gut. And here's the best part. 2,400 years ago, a doctor named Hippocrates, he said, all diseases begin in the gut. Way back when. And then he said, one man's food is another man's poison.
Yeah.
Means a food that's good for Paul is not necessarily good for Alan. Even the food that's good for Alan today, it may not be good 3 months from now because his body has changed now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the third thing he said was really interesting. Let food be thy medicine, let thy medicine be the food.
Yep.
And that's it.
That's beautiful.
But the point is, all we need is to understand what does our body needs in terms of nutrients, what kind of food we can provide that will cause our microbiome to release the nutrient our body needs, what will cause our microbiome not to release the stuff that's causing inflammation. And if you can do that, then somehow the body will stay in balance. So when we call it dis-ease, what is dis-ease? Body not being at ease is to get dis-ease. And that's what we call disease. Disease is simply the body is not balanced, body is not at ease. Right? So what we do is to understand every single thing that your body is producing, the enzymes and the peptides, and you say, oh, you're not producing enough of this good vitamin, folic acid or vitamin K or butyrate. What kind of organisms do you have? They are capable of doing it. What kind of foods we can give you now to essentially change that? Now, these organisms are producing too much of bad stuff. What do we need to stop feeding them so that we don't get that? Or you don't have enough organisms that can produce this good stuff called butyrate. Can we give you the butyrate supplement now? So at least in the short term, and then we introduce. What really happens is, most organisms may be there, but they are really being suppressed by all other stuff. And when you start to get rid of the bad stuff by not feeding them, suddenly this stuff starts to grow. And when they start to grow, now they can start to produce good stuff. Right? So your body is changing and adapting. So think of your gut microbiome like a seesaw. And you start to bring it into balance. And if you don't change your diet again, it goes imbalanced the other way. So you have to constantly straddle and change it. Just like tuning your car every year, your body is a lot more complex. You got to tune it every 3 or 4 months. And you keep it balanced. And when you do that, and if you don't tune your body, what happens? You end up in a repair shop. It's called ER. Right? Emergency room, that's where you end up. So the reason we believe the chronic disease is optional is you know what is happening inside your gut. What is causing you depression? What's causing you anxiety? What is causing you not to be able to sleep? What's causing you not to have a lot of energy? What is causing you not to be you? And we can now analyze your gut and tell you what foods are good for you, what are bad for you. Do you really need some supplements that your body actually is not producing? And that's really what keeps your body in balance. And if you do that, then your body becomes at ease. And that's why we believe it's optional. So we never said we can create a world where no one is sick, because that tells you the power is inside us. What we're saying is it's optional. That means you have the power. Our job is to empower you to make that decision. And if we give you the actionable things you can do, the chronic disease can be completely optional.
That's really well said. And you also blew my mind when you were talking about how there's no one food that's the biggest universal myth, is that there's one food that's good for everybody.
Alan, you're so right. There is no such thing as universal healthy food. A food that's good for one person can harm the another person. So, I think we talked about in the past that, everyone thinks spinach is healthy.
Yeah.
We know for half the people, spinach actually causes more harm than good. Because spinach has so much of oxalic acid. And if your gut microbiome cannot detoxify oxalic acid into something benign, then that oxalic acid is going to end up as a kidney stone or cause more inflammation. Same type of thing. People think,
so then maybe something like kale or romaine.
Kale and romaine. All of them is tough.
Better for that person.
Yes. Or you look at the things like pomegranate juice, almonds, raspberry. People say, oh, these are antioxidative food. They're really good for me. what they don't realize is these foods are not antioxidative. These foods simply contain the compound called allergic acid, and that allergic acid is converted by your gut microbiome into something called urolithin A, and that is antioxidative. So if your body doesn't have the enzyme, it's not producing the enzymes and peptides that can convert allergic acid into urolithin A, then the best thing that happens is you're pissing off your money. Or worst thing is these things are causing harm.
And that's why you get the recommendations. So okay, let's do that in this next part. We'll talk about the actual recommendations engine. All right, great.